Welcome everyone, thanks for checking out this video. This will be a quick unboxing and review of the ZyXel AP1200 Access Point. Let's start with some specs because after all, we're all nerds here. So the combined theoretical speed of this ZyXel Access Point is 1200 megabits per second across the two bands, those bands being the typical 2.4 and 5.0 gigahertz frequencies. You'll get better speeds with 5.0, but you could get better range with 2.4, but that's the case with all wireless. Between the two radios, you get support for the A, B, G, N, and AC wireless standards. It will support multiple input, multiple output, that is to say, it will deliver data to more than one device at the same time. You can power this access point with PoE, or Power over Ethernet, which is what I would recommend if you can. It supports the 802.3-AC and AF standards. It supports all the common security encryptions, will allow up to 16 Wi-Fi networks to be broadcast, MAC filtering, VLANs, gets a Plenum rating, and can even act as a DHCP client. So, loads of features, all for a pretty good price of $99, at the time of this video at least. So in the box we find a warranty card, some instructions, a manual of sorts that will help you set it up and configure it. Besides some other random pieces of paper, you can also find a power adapter. It kind of was a bit of a drag that we didn't get a PoE injector included. So now if we don't have a PoE switch, I'd have to run the power cable to the access point, no matter where it gets mounted. But considering the price point, only a minor nuisance. So next is the access point itself. Their goal was to make it look like a smoke detector, and they nailed it. Next is the mounting plate, to hang it on the wall, and a few screws with some anchors. If you hit a stud, no need for an anchor, but if you're just fastening it to drywall, you'll definitely want to use a few anchors. So I really love networking equipment that's easy to set up and get going, and then after you can dive in and see how powerful it really is. And this access point checks that box perfectly. It's super easy to set up, and if you want, you can log back in and start messing around with all the advanced features. So quickly, let's go over the basic setup. First, you'll want to connect the power, and then the Ethernet cable, or just the Ethernet cable if you're using PoE. Ultimately, the other end of the Ethernet cable would go into your router or switch, but to configure it this first time, we'll hook it up to a computer. Go to the Ethernet adapter settings for your computer. Give your computer a static IP address between 192.168.1.3 and 192.168.1.254. 1.3 should work just fine for our configuring. If you aren't having any luck, you can try another address. Once done, open up a browser and type in 192.168.1.2 into the address bar. Accept what you need to. Get to the login screen and type in admin as the username and 1234 as the password. You'll want to change that later. At this point, you could just enter in the time zone and other options you would want, such as what band to use, the name of your network, how many networks, security options, and creating passwords. I did one file transfer to test the access point speed and got around 3 megabytes over the 2.4 gigahertz band and around 7 megabytes per second, that is, over the 5.0 gigahertz. A test over my existing 5.0 gigahertz Wi-Fi reached higher speeds, but it's rated at 1900 instead of 1200. So it might not be the fastest, but it certainly did everything I asked of it over the week or so I used it. Throughout said week, I never had any issues nor drops, and the range was good. So yeah, hook it up, mount it, run the wizard, and just let it do its thing. It works great. I really like it. However, I didn't want to stop there. Let's dive back into the configuration page and see what else this thing can do. So once set up on your network, it'll get an IP address. And there are a few ways to find out what that is. I logged on to my router to find it. Some routers have phone apps that let you find that information. You could also just see what your IP address your computer has, and if your network is small enough, just try some addresses and see. In this case, the access point received the IP 192.168.1.109. So I typed that into the browser address bar, then I typed in my username and password. If you haven't changed it yet, the default is admin and the password is 1234. And if you haven't changed that yet, you'll want to. Once logged in, you are presented with the overview screen. It looks like the overview is just using widgets, and it looks like you might be able to add, remove, or customize it, which would be cool. You can see the device name, which you can change, location of the access point if you enter that in, model number, MAC address, firmware version, system resources, uptime, and much more. So clicking on the system name to change the name. Apparently you can't use spaces in the system name. Here is where you'd enter in the system location if you wanted to, so click apply. You can change the date and time, change port settings for HTTP and HTTPS, configure SSH, Telnet, FTP, SNMP, lots of other things. You can have it email you reports and stats, which is super nerdy and cool. You get some diagnostic tools, and you can also disable the LED on the unit, like if, I guess, it gets mounted in a room and the light's blinding people, I suppose. You can also remotely reboot or shut the unit down. Under the Monitoring tab, you can see information about the radios, get a list of connected devices, their IP addresses, MAC addresses, potential speed, signal strength, and more. You can check out and manage other access points, and you get a pretty nice log and interface summary. Other options and features I didn't show in the video were setting static IP addresses for the access point. You can set up rogue access point detection, load balancing, and manage credentials for logging into the access point. So there you have it. Easy to set up, but tons of nerdy options if you want to go there. Just the way the tech in my house should be. So do I recommend this access point by ZyXel? For sure. There's a link in the description if you want to grab one. Like I said earlier, at the time of this video, you can pick one up for around $99. Considering all the options and the great performance you get for that price, if you're looking for an access point, I would call the ZyXel AP1200 Access Point a great budget option. Thanks for checking out the video.